Hey folks, welcome to Cosmic Guidance for All. I'm Kirah, I'm your host, and we have a really fun episode for you today. It's an Ask Kirah episode. I have my good friend Amber J here to answer questions with me. But before we hop into it, I just have a little housekeeping up at the top. First, where do I start? I don't know. I think I'm going to just start by plugging my membership, Jove's House. It's a really fun virtual space to connect with other astrologers and get some time with me, I guess. So basically, I host a reading swap every month on the first Sunday of every month, where you can be paired up with another member and enjoy a reading swap, give each other readings. And then we also do a community gathering every month where I kind of just talk to you guys about the astrology, and then I put you into smaller groups and you can connect not one-on-one, but in groups of 3 or 4 with other astrologers. And you have prompts, there's questions. I give you prompts to answer with other astrologers, and you get to just speak the language. I think a lot of us have run into the issue where we become obsessed with astrology, but we don't really have anyone to talk to about it. Amber, I'm sure you've experienced that before. It's common. It's a common astrology nerd type of thing. So that's why I created Jove's House. It's a space where you can actually talk to other astrology nerds, speak the language, all of that. You also get access to my private Instagram feed at Jove's House. And I do private lives and, just kind of answer questions there as well. So there's a lot of fun stuff in Jove's House, and it's only $11 a month. So it's open. Doors are open. You can go to kirah.world/join and join there. The only other thing I have to plug, I think, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I guess just to say thanks for tuning in as always. It's just always really cool to get feedback about the show and that you guys love it, and I appreciate it more than you know. To help the show grow, because that's the plan, right? To help the show grow, you can write us a review on Apple Podcasts. It means a lot when you write a review. Writing a review, rating us 5 stars. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, hit that like button, all the things. Leave us a little comment. You guys have been on the internet. You guys get what it takes to kind of help a show grow with engagement and all of that. So the more you do that, the more I'm able to show up and produce this show for you guys, which I love to do. So there's that. And then, follow us on Instagram at Cosmic Guidance for All. And finally, we're going to hop into it, and you'll see some charts on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. Potentially, if you see the charts and you're like, "Ooh, those are pretty. Where did you get those charts from?" I use a software called Luna Astrology. It's at lunaastrology.com. And it's really affordable and it's really pretty, and that's why I like it. So if you are interested, you can get 10% off of your the first year of your subscription just by using my code Kirah, KIRAH, at checkout. You can also go to kirah.world/links, and there'll be a direct link with the discount already pre-filled in. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to introduce my good friend Amber J. Amber J lights the way. My Aries moon sister. So happy to have you here. Do you want to introduce yourself? Tell the people what you do and all that.
Okay, my name is Amber J. You can find me at Amber J, like Jay. Amber J lights the way. I'm a Cancer Sun, Cancer Rising, Aries Moon. I personally love that combination. I have been a consulting astrologer for, how old am I? For over 6 years now, and I've been studying astrology since I was a kid, so at least 15 years. Nobody needs to know my whole government age out here, but yes, I specialize in helping people understand themselves, helping people understand, the direction that's good for them to go in, or that feels good for them to go in, and a little bit of compatibility, relationship astrology here and there. But my favorite thing to do is to get people in on practical astrology, like how you mentioned, like it's Wednesday, it's Mercury day, it's like the days of the week, the hours, and what the planets are doing in the sky, how they're affecting you on your daily life to make your day a little bit better. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. And yeah, Amber wrote horoscopes for Cusp when we had Cusp going. Which ones were you writing again?
I was writing Leo through Scorpio rising.
Okay, yeah. So Leo rising, Virgo rising, Libra rising, and Scorpio rising. Amber was writing. So if you had Cusp and you have one of those rising signs, you can thank Amber for those awesome daily horoscopes. Um, and yeah, I'm excited to get into these questions. The theme today is career and purpose, that type of thing. Lots of different types of career questions. So, yeah, let's hop into it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So, I wanted to start out with this question that's kind of general. It's from Yarelis Garcia, and they ask, I talk a lot about purpose and how we as humans in Earth must have one or we are lost. Would love a breakdown on the North Node and the South Node and how it correlates with destiny or purpose. Look forward to the podcast. And they gave their birth info. It's January 10th, 1989, 9:15 p.m. in Ponce, Puerto Rico. That gives them a Virgo rising with Mercury in Aquarius in the sixth house as the chart ruler. Their Capricorn sun in the fifth house with the big Capricorn stellium. But the topic of this being the North Node and South Node, it's worth it to note that they have first, their moon is exactly on the descendant in Pisces, and they have their North Node, the moon conjunct the North Node in Pisces on the descendant, South Node on the ascendant in Virgo. So this person was born on with the nodal axis rising exactly on the ascendant and the descendant. And they want to know our perspective on purpose and destiny as it relates to the North Node and South Node. I think this is a really good one to get us started. So, yeah, do you want to start off, Amber? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely have thoughts. Like, my first thought is, of course, a person with this chart would ask this question exactly the way you worded it. A person with this chart, with, like you're saying, the nodal axis rising, like, purpose is a big deal in their life, like a bigger deal than like people who have the nodes that don't really touch anything. It's like kind of the way that they are living and being themselves and embodying themselves, like, because of that conjunction, has to go with the purpose and who they are and their fate and their destiny and the moon, the emotions, and them being themselves is all embodied into one thing. One can't express without the other because they're almost at the exact same spot. So first of all, if you feel like purpose is a big deal in your life when you have this chart, you are right. You're correct. Absolutely, it is. The astrology says so. But in terms of the North Node and the South Node, in my opinion, like, in general, the North Node is, just to put it plainly, I know that a lot of astrology lovers listen to this podcast, but just to, put in, was it layman's terms? The North Node is basically what you're supposed to sort of be working towards, the energy that you're supposed to be embodying more of in this life. And then the South Node is the energy that you sort of have to like let go of the negative expressions of. It's said that in a past life you already sort of embodied the South Node, and so you're kind of carrying it into this life, and you got a little comfortable. So now it's time to move towards the North Node so that you can grow. So in terms of like destiny or purpose, the way I see the North Node is, how do I say? Because destiny and purpose are two different things. Sorry. So the way I see it as purpose, your purpose is to embody those good traits of the North Node. The catch is that it's a little uncomfortable for you to embody those North Node traits. Like that's the whole thing about it. Because if it was like so easy, you would just look at the North Node and be like, oh, like it's in Scorpio. Might as well just act a little scorpionic. But no, that's not how it is. It's usually a kind of a vulnerable point for someone to embody their North Node. And then as far as the South Node, your purpose is to sort of see where, it might be those traits of whatever sign it's in can be like holding you back a little bit, or keeping you complacent, and learn how to basically, move outside of your comfort zone in regards to those specific traits. As far as destiny, though, because that's different. Destiny is like, it's what you're meant to do. It's like something that's like, destined to happen in your life. For that, I don't just look at the sign of the North Node and the South Node, but I also really look at the house, because I think that's really helpful to see what sort of like arena of life your purpose is going to, or your destiny is going to fall into. So, for example, like if you have your North Node like in the fourth house, you are destined to deal with things, to grow through things that have to do with the fourth house, like family, comfort, roots, settling down, figuring out who you are at your core, like things like that. And then your destiny on the flip side, with the South Node being in the 10th house, is to let go of things surrounding the 10th house, like career expectations, or having big dreams that aren't really rooted in like who you are, but more so rooted in like achievement or proving to other people that you are, good at achieving things. It's like, no, like it's more about the flip side of it. So yeah, that would be my explanation. Sorry, I had a lot to say about that one.
No, I love that. Yeah. It's funny. When it comes to the nodes, there typically are a lot of different like viewpoints on it, I think, because it is such it comes from a more Vedic practice. I think, Vedic Eastern astrologers typically have used, historically have used the nodes in particular ways, but more modern astrology, especially evolutionary astrology, have their perspective on the nodes tends to be different. Tends to be a little bit more like Amber um, stated, where it tends to be a little bit more tied to evolution and previous lifetimes, current lifetimes, what you're moving towards, all of that. That's certainly my background and how I first learned about the nodes. I typically, I think where I'm at now with the nodes, the North Node and South Node, and how they relate to the chart, I look at them as points of patterning. In particular, the South Node representing the patterning that are soul level patterning, right? That our souls are just very used to at this point. It's familiar. It's familiar. And so you can look at that as, the energy that you entered into this lifetime with, the patterning that you entered into this lifetime with. If you're not really into reincarnation or, that type of point of view, you can look at it as just like the patterning that tends to play out early in life, because it's both. It'll play out early in your life as well. And then the North Node will represent the patterning that our souls aren't familiar with, right? So it's what we are, again, on a soul level, sort of craving and needing more experience in. And so that's kind of how I look at it. And it's almost like that is what your soul is hoping to, that's the patterning that you're hoping to encode in this lifetime. The South Node just being, again, what we're already familiar with. Astrologer Sam Reynolds, my good friend, Scorpio, pretty much my chart twin. He has talked about the nodes in a way. I think that's really helpful in that sort of relating into the right and the left hand, or your primary, the dominant hand versus the non-dominant hand. And that south node is like writing with your dominant hand, and it's just kind of like natural, it's easy, you don't really have to think about it. Whereas kind of engaging your north node is like learning to write with your non-dominant hand.
Are y'all getting this? This is
And
gold. This is a perfect expression of what this is.
it really is. I mean, Sam, I think he spoke on this at some conference. I think maybe Norwalk 2020. I remember it was in 2020. Um, but yeah, it was such a great analogy, I think. So thinking about the nodes sort of as patterning, at least that's how I do it. Um, and then when it comes to like, yeah, purpose and fate, again, a lot of astrologers, specifically like more modern evolutionary based astrologers, look at the nodes as these points of destiny or fated events. And I don't know about destiny. I guess destiny and fate are kind of intertwined, but I certainly do look at the nodes as these points where fated events can occur. Um, Specific, I mean, they're eclipse points, right? Like these are the points where eclipses take place. So of course we're looking at, these sort of big moments of change, or fate, you could say. Let me go back to the question so I make sure I'm answering it. Oh yeah, okay, now I know what I wanted to say about this. So I was actually talking to a client recently about this, and I personally think that the concept of having a purpose is a very diurnal concept.
I agree.
And
I
which I think
agree.
it's funny that this person asked the question because they are a night chart, and they have like almost all of their planets. Not all, yeah, most of their planets are subterranean. They have their Jupiter in the ninth, and their Mars in Aries in the eighth. But pretty much everything else is beneath the horizon. The moon would have is literally right there on the horizon line, a minute underneath the horizon. So anyway, I was talking to my also night chart client about this because they were just saying like, I don't feel like I want to have a purpose. Like, what if I don't want to have a career? What if I just want to like live? And I'm like, yes, as you should. I personally, I personally like don't think that humans need a purpose. That's my
I
personal,
agree.
and
I
that's only
agree.
because I just don't think that. I think that being alive is your purpose. Like
Yes,
if you're here, if you're breathing, even if you're only alive for two seconds, 2 minutes, like that is that's the purpose. Like that's your purpose. It's sort of wrapped up into being a human being. And so it doesn't really need to be much else outside of that. But at the same time,
I really agree.
I understand that people have that. People have that feeling of like, I have, this is my purpose, or right, this is my destiny, or even that craving for purpose or destiny. I can completely understand that. Um, I have that too. I've run into times in my life where I've felt that way, at least, or craved it at least. Which again, I think is very diurnal. I think for you, this person asking this question, Yarelis, having a million planets in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn in Capricorn, I think that's probably where this notion of purpose and needing a purpose comes from. Um, it just feels, again, it's very diurnal, which Saturn is a diurnal planet. So to me, that's, yeah, I just can't help but say that. Like it's not, I don't, I don't think everyone needs to feel like they have a purpose. And I think that it's kind of harmful. And I'm not saying anything bad about this person for asking this question. I love this question because it's asked a lot. And I really appreciate the question. But I think it can be harmful to impose that on society, or, the populace, that everyone should have a purpose and should be working towards a purpose, because not everyone has that. And I think especially night charts, especially people born at night who, I believe your quote unquote purpose as a night chart person, is more related to connecting on a physical, material, emotional, relational level. I think night chart people have this like beautiful ability to, again, connect with their locality, connect with their people, and to serve the people around them. Whereas diurnal, and again, that's purpose, right? But the concept of having like a external purpose, something outside of yourself, is so diurnal. It is so day chart. It's so Saturn, Jupiter, Sun. Um, and again, I'm also not saying that only day chart people can have these like big career dreams either, but it's just that you tend to see that more with diurnal people who are like kind of looking to achieve something that's more public or more external, or that's going to affect more people than just like their community or their, familiar locality type spaces. Okay. Yeah, how do you feel about that? All that I just said, Amber.
No, I completely agree. That's the thing. Like, I think, okay, the first thing that comes to my mind is that, like, when it comes to purpose, the way that we all like accept the definition, like, as a society, like, what you're saying about just living, allowing life to sort of like open up to you, or you open up to life, or just having these like just here to be experiencing experience, just over and over again. I feel like that is also a purpose, but people wouldn't say it is. They would say like you're just living life, you're just living your best life. But like you were saying, for a lot of day charts, especially when I think of like sun in the ninth, sun in the 10th, sun in the 11th, it's like they really wanna they were like they want to change the world, they want to impact people, they want to impact like groups of people. They want to find like a group of people they resonate with and be like, come on, guys. Like they want to lead and show and like do all this stuff. But, lo and behold, us night charts, having to, having our, I guess, quote unquote purpose be those interpersonal relationships and those connections that we're nurturing. That's the only way that the group like gets to show up in the first place. That's the only way that the groups like form for, let's say a day chart person to come and lead them and show us the way. So it's like what you're saying about the external level thing, like that is absolutely a purpose. And that category of purpose, it is very important. But I think it already has its credits already. So when it comes to those internal, energies that need to be like moved and experienced and shifted. And of course, I'm saying this as a Cancer stellium. One of my like big things is like obviously emotion and having to like feel through my feelings, feel through emotions. And I like used to hate it until I realized like, oh my gosh, like it feels like I'm doing this because nobody else knows how to do this. And it seems like so, I don't want to say like it seems so like people just gloss over like the ability to like feel through like your emotions, but that's a really big deal in people's lives. And understanding that about even my own self and having that be like a purpose I consider myself to have, and then me just living as an example of someone who is embodied that way. Like I've seen it happen where people meet me and then they come back and they're just like, wow, the way that you just bravely just sit with your emotions, the way that you just raw dog life, like that's crazy. Like it's
It is.
inspiring
It
to me,
is.
and it has a ripple effect, like to communities and big groups and then society. And it starts with just like the one person, so it feels like that should be considered a purpose, even though it feels so personal or feels so internal. So yeah, so but the big thing that I was getting from what you're saying, I mean, obviously snaps to everything, but the big thing was like, I think we should all change what we're thinking of, like what we're putting in the category of like purpose. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to go out and like do something like for the world. Sometimes doing something just for you like has an effect that you just can't even fathom. We'll have this um what's the word I'm looking for? Effect, consequence. It will touch more people than you
Impact.
think.
Impact.
Yes, impact. Thank you. Yes, impact. No, thank you. You read my mind.
Yeah, and just to kind of wrap this up, to kind of pull it back to your chart, Yarelis, with your North Node on the descendant with the moon. If I were to be, well, I am looking at your chart. If I were to be speaking to you in a reading or whatever, I would, I would essentially say something like, With the South Node on your ascendant, to me, that speaks to there being patterning, whether you're looking at it as past life or present, early life patterning around um, being able to develop the personality, being able to um, develop the identity, really, like understanding who you are and developing some independence with who you are. Just like there's a solidification of the identity with the South Node in the first. North Node in the seventh really speaks to there needing to be this patterning developed around partnering, relating, compromising, being in relationship. And then I would just say to that point, like purpose is not always career, right? Like, or the nodes don't always have to do with what we're doing for work. And so your work, we look to your sixth house, the ruler of the sixth house. We're looking at your midheaven. We're looking at, your chart ruler in the sixth house. I bet you're someone who works quite a bit. But that doesn't necessarily have to relate to that nodal axis, right? To me, I would say if we're looking at your nodes in terms of quote unquote purpose, it's to partner. Like that's, you're kind of here to experience what it's like to partner, to form relationship, right? That could have something to do with your work, but not necessarily. So yeah, I wanted to put that out there. And we got to move on. We're taking too long. We're not going to get through all these. So the next one, Wannabe Working Girl asks, Hi, I've been desperately seeking steady work for several months now. I currently work as a freelance video editor slash filmmaker. My Pluto square Venus transit has literally left me in the negative. Not sure if I should switch careers or how, or just hang in there until Saturn oppose my Mars Jupiter veers away. Mars Jupiter conjunction. Many thanks and blessings. This person was born March 5th, 1980 at 1:29 a.m. in Philly. They are Sag rising, 15 degrees Sag. Their chart ruler is Jupiter in Virgo in the 10th house. They also have Jupiter. Sorry, I meant to say, yeah, Jupiter and Virgo in the 10th house. It's conjunct Saturn. It's retrograde. It's conjunct Mars, which is also retrograde in Virgo. Both are very close to the North Node in Leo at 29 Leo. And their Saturn is in the 10th house in Virgo too. So a lot of 10th house um, Virgo placements. They have a exact moon Pluto conjunction in Libra in the 11th. Their midheaven is at 5 Libra in the 11th house. That's ruled by Venus in Aries in the 5th house. And then they have a Sun Mercury conjunction in Pisces in the 4th. Chiron in the 6th too, I think is worth it to note. Yeah, so they're seeking work. I'm curious if you might want to pull some cards for this one, Amber. Do you have cards?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have cards. Hold on, let me go grab them real quick.
Yeah, go grab them. I Amber has given me one of the most impactful readings I've had, tarot readings I've had in a while. So, I think Amber's tarot insight might be helpful here. But just to start with what I'm seeing, when I'm looking at work specifically, it sounds like this is more of a work issue for you. When I'm looking at that, I'm looking at the sixth house and the ruler of the sixth house and what's going on with that. You, your sixth house is Taurus. Um, you have your part of fortune there. You have Chiron there, pretty much conjunct the part of fortune. And of course, that's all. Well, first of all, let's start with that. Taurus, sixth house. What's happening in Taurus? Well, we've been having eclipses for the past year and a half. We have Uranus there. So, just off the bat, we know that your Taurus house, my Taurus house, anyone's Taurus house has been going through it over the past couple years, and there's just been a lot of instability and uncertainty in that area of life. So understandable. But then we look at to the ruler of your sixth house, which is your Venus in Aries at 28 degrees. immediately I'm thinking, okay, the ruler of your sixth house just got eclipsed a week ago. So I don't know when I forget when you sent this in, but I would imagine that that alone is going to signal some major shifts in this arena for you. We also have Jupiter coming to the ruler of your sixth house soon. That's going to happen in May, the very beginning of May, so the next week or so. So that's something. And then right after that, Jupiter is going to enter into your sixth house too. So to me, I'm looking at that May period, the entire month basically, because we will have, we're still in retrograde land at that point. We're having that shift. Mercury is going to station direct May 14th. May 16th is when Jupiter enters Taurus, and then May 19th, we have a Taurus new moon. So it's like that whole middle week of May, we have so many shifts in related to work for you. Um, I feel like Venus is going to be, Venus will be in Cancer at that point. Um, but yeah, it's going to be moving towards a square to your natal Venus too. And eventually it's going to enter Leo in early June and then station retrograde July 23rd. Guess where? 29 degrees Leo or 28 degrees Leo. Where's that? On your North Node and trine your natal Venus. I feel like that's probably when you're in a new job personally, that by I would say by July, I think it's probably June period. But just to kind of validate, that Saturn transit into your fourth house and opposing your Mars Jupiter, it's not fun at all. But I'm still, and I think especially because Jupiter is your chart ruler, I'm also ruled by Jupiter in Virgo. I'm feeling you very much right now. But again, Venus is responsible here. Venus is responsible for your sixth house. Venus is responsible for your midheaven. I think the fact that your Venus just got eclipsed is like a huge deal because it does speak to some major changes happening. So let's see what Amber has to say.
Yes, first of all, again, I agree with everything you said there. How you are able to pull out the dates so quick like that, man.
It's because I've been writing horoscopes and I
Oh, true,
wrote
true. So it's
12
like
different horoscopes for May with those dates. So yeah.
right, so it's like over and over and over. Yeah, no, you're so right. I was so good at keeping up with the transits like day to day when I was writing horoscopes. Anywho, yeah, I co-sign everything that Kirah just said, and then another thing I think just to note, just like on a what's it like a metaphysical level, especially because you said like, oh, I'm filling you with the Saturn opposition. Let me tell you something. Saturn oppositions are so not fun. They're so not fun. Saturn's already so cold and the opposition is so cold. It literally leaves you feeling like you're out in the cold. Like if I were to compare it to a tarot card, it's literally like the Five of Pentacles. It's like it feels like you like can't see anything, like you're surrounded by like nothing or like barrenness, not to like down the moon or anything, but I know how it feels. Like Saturn was opposing my entire Cancer stellium for a very long time. I got to really know what a Saturn opposition truly feels like. But here's the thing that I also learned. Saturn is like a hard ass, right? It's a hard ass. First of all, it's in Pisces. Okay. So let's rejoice. Okay. That is being led and ruled by wonderful Jupiter, who's like, lighten up. Saturn's like, I won't lighten up. I'll try my best, but I won't. The other thing like to know is like Saturn, when you're in a Saturn opposition, although it feels like you're surrounded by like you just can't see like ways to get out of your situation, Saturn is literally a challenging planet. It's kind of like Mars or Saturn when they're touching you. There's like some challenge that you need to like face. One of the things about Saturn I find is that you need to really prioritize preparedness, like being prepared. Do things early, save your money. If you don't feel like you're going to be able to get to do something, tell people. If you don't feel like you're going to, get all the things done in your own personal schedule, move those to-do lists around, like move them around and just say and accept like your limitations and say like, like I can't stretch myself thin. I need to, it's like focus up. It's like Saturn is like, okay, focus and like get prepared, do things early. And whenever you can, just like basically save things for a rainy day, save money for a rainy day, save energy for a rainy day. Of course, I understand this question is saying like, oh, I've been put in the negative, things like that. But honestly, I hate to say it like this, but like with the Saturn opposition, Saturn is saying like, don't focus on that. Like focus on how you're going to shift your energy going forward. And that is going to enable me to bring you things that will, okay, sorry, not to get too woo woo, but Saturn is saying, sorry, Saturn is saying, focus on the present. If you can focus your energy on the present right now, disregarding the past, I know it hurts, but just disregarding the past, focus now. That will enable me, Saturn, to bring you opportunities for me to help you grow. Therefore, I will bring you, this job. I will bring you this money. I will bring you these things that kind of come with a little caveat. And your job is to just take what Saturn is giving you, take it, siphon some off for a rainy day, as is the lesson of Saturn. Siphon it off so you can be prepared, so you can take care of yourself, so you can think about the future, so you can accept your own limitations. And it's like in that way, you will get what you need to move forward, but also grow. It's almost like accepting the talent. It's almost like Saturn's reaching his hand out and saying like, well, I'll give you this like money, but it will come with the lesson of responsibility. And it's like, man, I need the money. Thank you. Just shift your perspective into that. That was what was just very helpful for me. Again, I'm sorry if that was a little too woo-woo. But yes, so now to get to the practical matter, I have these cards and I'm just going to pull a few cards. Kirah, what do you think? Should I do like the next like a month or so, or should I just do general guidance?
I would say, yeah, when is it? Let's do the next month, like pretty much May. Maybe let's focus on May because we know that's going to be a big month for them.
That is going to be a big month. Oh, so excited. So excited. Just got a little hit of energy. Wannabe working girl, you need to be ready.
Yes.
Do not, absolutely, don't let Saturn win. Don't get down. Focus up and be like, that's right. I can handle it.
Yeah.
That's the Aries moon talking. Let me pull some 3 cards. 3 cards for Wannabe Working Girl for me.
I love the card ASMR.
Thank you. All right, thank you on behalf of the cards. Okay, here we go. And the third one. Okay, for May. General guidance for May. General guidance for May for Wannabe Working Girl. Sometimes the cards make way too much sense. Let me see if I can hold it up for you, Kirah, so you can see. This is the order of the cards.
Okay, so we got 7 of coins, 4 of coins. What was that last one? Strength. Okay.
Baby. Strength. First of all, it's a Leo card. What did you just say?
Yeah.
What did you just say? So I definitely can confirm like something's happening as who did you just say moved to Leo? Venus.
Well, yeah, Venus is going to move into Leo in June. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she retrogrades through Leo.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's a big deal. It's the last card, so it does mean like some effects of it are starting to happen like towards the end of the month. But I got 7 of Pentacles. I got the 4 of Pentacles here. Let me just tell you again, the 7 of Pentacles is about patience. The 4 of Pentacles is literally about holding on to what you have, in a positive expression. It's holding on to what you have. It's not being attached to it. It's just holding on to it, coveting it, and sort of protecting like what you have. And it does mean in terms of your energy as well as your money. It is also about saving money, which is like I was just saying, especially when it comes to Saturn transits. Saturn loves to work in the literal material world. And again, not to get woo-woo, but money is an expression of energy many, many times in many, many instances. So it's really about that energy shift. Having the 7 of Pentacles here literally means wait. It means continue to wait. It means continue to water what you have around you in the best ways that you can. I'm not saying you need to be all super abundant and like doing all this stuff, like especially if you feel like you can't do that right now. What it is saying though is do what you can, and having that little shift makes a huge, huge difference. And then, of course, we end with strength. Again, all three of these cards are about like, what's the word I'm looking for? Perseverance. They're about perseverance. It's like you truly need to keep going. It's the universe being like, just keep going and shift your mind. Hold on to what you have. Just hold on. Just hold on. Just wait. Hold on. Hold on.
I totally
you
agree.
will you will get what you need, but you need to have some stick to itiveness right now. All three of these cards are saying that. That's crazy, but it's not that crazy because the cards are accurate.
And not to mention, sorry, do you have something else to add?
Oh, I was just saying temperance at the bottom of the deck. Another patience card. Yeah, another patience card. It's just funny.
And that's the Sag card, right?
It
Sag
is the Sag
rising.
card. Yes,
Yeah.
it's like it's talking about you.
Yes, yes. And temperance to me, like I was taught by Lindsay Mack of Wild Soul Tarot, and one thing that she taught about patience, about temperance, is it's about co-creating with spirit. So it's almost this. I like to call it the like let go and let God card, because it is so much about like, okay, spirit, I've done what I can in this material plane. Like I'm giving it up to you to help me with the rest. Um, so keeping that in mind, keeping the fact that the ruler of your 10th house, Mercury, is currently retrograde in your 6th house too, like it, to me, it's giving revise, review, reconnect, right? So what I'm thinking is, I just wanted to just validate real quick the fact that your Venus is in detriment. It is the most positive planet in your chart. You were born at night. Your Venus is very, very. It's an evening star. It is in the 5th house where it rejoices. Like although it's in not the best sign for it, it's actually in pretty good condition otherwise, and I really think this Venus retrograde is going to be really important for you. But just to kind of echo what Amber was saying, like the pause, the just hold on to what you have, the waiting is really important here, because I also think things are coming for you. It's just a matter of time, literally. And Saturn makes everything feel slow. It makes you feel like you're trapped. It makes you feel like you're limited. It makes you feel like there's no way out. It's very like Eight of Swords energy. The Saturn opposition, I think, especially coming from your 4th and like opposing your chart ruler and your Mars, all of that, it's not easy. um but what was I going to say? Yeah, I just feel like, oh, this is what I wanted to validate. Okay, I wanted to validate that Venus, but also the fact that Venus is responsible for your work and career, and it, again, in detriment. I would look at your chart and say, well, you're certainly supposed to be in a creative field. Like that, to me, is pretty obvious. It's also when you see a planet in detriment like that ruling your work and your career and your public image, it's expect to do things differently than everyone else, and don't try to do things like everyone else in your life are doing it. Like don't even try, because it's not going to work. And this is coming from someone with the ruler of all of their angles in detriment, um trying to do it trying to do things the way that your peers are doing it, trying to follow the way that your peers are achieving success, isn't going to work for you. I don't know what that might mean for you, but kind of sit with that. And also, um, what was I going to say? Yeah, just knowing that like, you're probably going to be, how do I put this? Well, let me just say this. I'll just say this. Venus ruling the 11th and all these Venus activations happening, like community is so important, your network is so important. Take this retrograde time to reach out to people in your network. You don't have to say like I'm broke, I desperately need a job or anything like that, but let them know that you're looking. Establish those, just like like reestablishing connections. That's what Mercury, the ruler of your 7th house of clients and connections, retrograde is so good for. Is for bringing people from your past back into your realm, and you never know who might have a connection to a job for you. So I'm saying use this retrograde, the next 3 weeks or whatever of this retrograde, to connect and reconnect and talk to people and form new connections, because it's important, I think, for the next steps for you.
Agree.
Yeah. So I think we have time for one more. I would do way more, but I have a reading, so um,
Copy.
and
No,
I
makes
think
sense.
like the two of us we'll end up talking for 3 hours if we let ourselves.
Very true.
So let's see. I'm trying to decide which one I want to do here. I'm thinking, do you have a preference between 3, 4, and 5?
I am looking right now.
I'm kind of leaning towards 5, but I would do whichever one you're more interested in.
No, you choose. You choose.
I don't know if this is like the right one to do. I guess I want to talk
All of them
about
look
this.
interesting to
I
me.
want to talk about this, so let's do this. Let's
Okay,
spend our
okay.
last
There we go.
15 minutes on this. So the last one we'll answer today is called EA versus Hellenistic Dilemma. They say, "Hey, Kirah, thank you for everything you do. Thank you so much for opening yourself up to questions. I'm at a crossroads in my astrological studies, and I'm hoping you might be able to offer some insight. I've been deep in my astrological studies for about 4 years now. My foundation is the Astrology podcast. I love Chris Brennan. I love the whole sign house system. And I have built myself a successful client base from giving readings using traditional methods and techniques. So for years, I have felt very loyal to Hellenistic astrology. Understandable. However, I received a reading from an evolutionary astrologer a year ago that had me sobbing. She streamlined 6 years of therapy into an hour-long session, and I was shook. Since then, I have been studying under the renowned astrologer, and I'm loving it. But EA is so different from traditional astrology, and it's making my head spin. I'm reluctant to use modern rulership, and it feels wrong to use the 12 archetypes to describe the houses. But the use/understanding of Pluto and the nodes in EA feels profoundly invaluable. My question for you is there anything in my chart that indicates if I'm better suited to be an evolutionary astrologer versus a Hellenistic astrologer? Thank you." This person is born March 1st, 1992 at 10:34 p.m. in Powell River, British Columbia. They're 1 degree Scorpio rising, ruled by Mars in Aquarius in the 4th house, conjunct the IC. They also have Saturn very close by, 13 Aquarius, Venus at 15 Aquarius, the moon at 16 Aquarius, so 4th house Aquarius stellium. This person was born a couple of days before my best friend because I know this chart. They also have a Pisces sun, obviously, in the 5th house, Mercury and Pisces in the 5th, and Jupiter in Virgo in the 11th. So, yes, I mean,
You attract so many Jupiter and Virgo. I've
I
literally
know.
never I have one person in my life who's a Jupiter and Virgo. Oh, and
Is
you,
it me?
two people in my life who are Jupiter and Virgo. But it seems like you talk with people.
It's just
It must be okay. It must
1991ers.
be.
This is
Wow.
1992, but yeah, the other person was, I guess, yeah, I guess I do attract them a lot.
Because stick and stay with
It's
each
in my
other.
seventh
You get
house.
it. Oh, true. That's so true.
It makes sense,
It
right?
totally makes sense. They're like, there's something about her. There's something about her.
But no, I really wanted to answer this question because it's something that comes up a lot, and I've seen talks about it on Twitter and stuff. So I wanted to address this because I have feelings about it. I have, I have feelings about this. First of all, I wanted to say, like, you're not alone in this. I too have had, well, first I started with evolutionary astrology. That's kind of like was the foundation of my practice before I got into traditional. But I've had readings from evolutionary astrologers that have been, mind blowing, that have left me crying, that have been so insanely impactful. Um, and yeah, I get it. I get where you're coming from. At the same time, there's the use of what we call the 12-letter alphabet, or ABC astrology, which is essentially equating planets to signs to houses. So they'll typically say Aries is the first house, and like Mars and Aries in the first house are kind of all the same. And then Venus and Taurus in the second house, they all have the same themes. Us Hellenistic traditional leaning astrologers pretty much are vehemently against that, because it, in my opinion, there's not a lot of nuance. You can't really get a lot of nuance in your delineations when you're using that method, and it's sort of, I'm against teaching it because it is hard to unlearn. It's kind of difficult to unlearn. So, and it sounds like you're in that camp too, EA versus Hellenistic dilemma. But again, there's this undeniable part of evolutionary astrology. There's undeniable like impact of evolutionary astrology, and it's like, how to reconcile that. Um, I personally, this is why I have words about it, because I've been thinking about this for many years. And I personally just believe that you can do both. And I don't understand why it's so hard. I don't get it. I don't get why it's so hard to do both. I don't understand why it's so hard for evolutionary. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Let me rewind. Let me chill. I think that it is entirely possible for evolutionary astrologers to incorporate traditional fundamentals into their practice without it being too disruptive. And by that I mean, I think it is entirely possible to, one, use whole sign houses, two, use traditional rulerships and not modern rulerships, and three, incorporate the nodes and Pluto and the outer planets as important pieces to the chart without using them as rulers of houses and signs. I think it's totally possible. And I'm not saying this to you as like, why don't you get it? But I'm saying this as, it is so possible. And why aren't we already there? Like, why aren't we doing that? This is a kind of a newer branch of astrology, I think. I'm calling it contemporary astrology because I think that's kind of what how I describe what I do. Because I do certainly incorporate a lot of modern, techniques into my practice that is primarily rooted in Hellenistic tradition. But yeah, I'm basically saying, like, go for it. Go for the synergy of the two, because it's about time. It's about time we have more people actively practicing that way. I don't have a evolutionary framework anymore. It's just not, I diverted away from it, but I think it's totally possible. I get kind of upset with evolutionary astrologers when they act like it's not possible to use like traditional rulerships. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, that's that's my thoughts about it. And then just in terms of your chart to me, like, it's so Saturn, it's so Saturnian. It's so rooted and grounded in this Aquarius fourth house with Saturn and Mars, like kind of straddling your IC. Like, to me, that is so traditional astrology. Like, and the reason I say that is because traditional astrology provides a structure that I think can be so it can be so grounding for people who have a lot of Saturn, people who have like kind of, heavy malefica, that are looking for the Saturnian structure basically in their intellectual pursuits, which again, this is all Aquarius for you. The ruler of your ninth house is that moon in Aquarius. So I think that is probably why you've been so drawn to traditional and the structure that traditional provides, and the history, the tradition that traditional astrology provides. But you have this, you have a Pisces sun, you have a Pisces Mercury in the fifth house. I can understand why these a more emotional and therapeutic elements of evolutionary astrology speaks to you, like, profoundly. That makes a ton of sense to me. So again, I'm like, do both. That's my that's my that's my plea, is to start incorporating both, and call it whatever you want to call it, but there's no reason why you should have to do one or the other, in my opinion. What do you think, Amber?
Girl, I have a lot of thoughts. Okay, a lot of thoughts. Because first of all,
Let's get into it.
first of all, how you mentioned their like whole Aquarius stellium, an evolutionary astrologer might say that's actually ruled by Uranus, which is very forward
Right.
thinking and very expansive. And so therefore they should go for evolutionary astrology. But listen, here's the thing. Actually, first, let me note something to both of you. Um, the idea of being don't judge me. Don't judge me. Don't say anything. Leave me out. The idea of being loyal to one astrology practice is so Scorpio like to me. I was like looking at this chart, like, okay, Aquarius is fixed, yeah, like, okay, but Pisces, like, I don't know, like, they, blended things together, and I saw that 1 degree Scorpio rising, like, oh, no wonder. The idea of like being like, oh, which one should I do? Like, I have to be loyal. I am a Cancer stellium and Aries moon and Virgo Mars, and I'm like, listen, whatever is gonna make sense is gonna make sense. Okay, when it's wherever it's going to make sense, it's going to make sense. This person has seen that traditional astrology has provided, a framework and a grounding for them that feels safe, that feels good, and feels. One thing about traditional astrology, it's nice and predictable. You can use it to, like literally predict things. You can use it to, sort of help find that guidance that feels very comforting. But at the same time, they've also had this experience with an evolutionary astrologer. 6 years of therapy crammed into like an hour-long reading. That's a little crazy. That's very notable. So it's significant. It's special. And so obviously there are some, truths to these things. And I, for one, I don't believe that we make these new discoveries of, these patterns and these new planets for nothing. I think that they are basically just a gateway to not, we haven't had as much experience noticing the patterns of like Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, et cetera, as we have for the planets that we can see. But at the same time, we're building up to that, noticing where these planets, are. Me personally, I'm like you, Kirah. I love traditional astrology. I love evolutionary astrology. Me personally, I love astrology. I like knowing what's going on. I like knowing what the planets are saying. I like hearing, the interpretations of it and noticing what the patterns have been when, certain planets touch your chart in certain ways. So first of all, yes, I'm going to co-sign. You just need to do both. You need to do both because when it comes down to it, first of all, I think, again, from either side, evolutionary astrology or traditional astrology, to reject that either one has like some truth in it, to say that, no, that's not true. That's literally so crazy. Like you as a Pisces sun and a Pisces Mercury, you should know like there's a little piece of truth in every single thing, but you are a Pisces sun, you're a Pisces Mercury, you're Scorpio rising. Those water signs really are so intuitive. I bet you know which piece of information is most relevant to what you're looking at each time you're looking at it. I bet you know what energy is coming through. I bet you already know. You're asking us for guidance, but I bet you already know. Second of all, I feel like when you're looking at I just feel like when you're looking at different things, if you're looking at why you're feeling the way you're feeling versus like, when will I be in my next relationship versus, mundane astrology, what's happening with the world, each practice, traditional astrology and evolutionary astrology, has a place for each thing that you're doing. So it may not be helpful to get a little like spaced out and woo woo when you're trying to look at predicting a date of when something on a global scale will happen. I don't think it's like very helpful. But on the flip side, it is very helpful when you're wondering about your spiritual path and you're looking at things that are a little bit more metaphysical. In that way, I believe the practices kind of have to blend. They have to blend because again, it almost feels like, how dare you reject one truth over the other when you need to use your internal truth to sort of figure out what is most aligned at that time. And then, there was something else I wanted to say. There's something else I wanted to say about. Yes, I think. I know it's a lot of information, but I think we all just need to hold it in our brains and just learn more. Like, just have it in your brain and just figure out when it applies. You know, like the more you do this stuff, the more the answers become obvious. You may not be able to predict everything down to a T, and you're not meant to, but they become so obvious as to like what we're talking about. In fact, sometimes they're almost exactly the same. Like on the one hand, having a chart that has a bunch of Aquarius, a traditional astrologer, might say, plus the Pisces, a traditional astrologer might say, well, Saturn is very traditional and it needs a lot of structure, so therefore stick with traditional astrology. But you have the Pisces, and that can open you up to a lot of different practices and the ability to see the truth in them. On the flip side, an evolutionary astrologer would say, well, Uranus rules Aquarius, so therefore you need to learn the basic stuff, but using that traditional background, that is what you need to do to like break through. You were always meant to break through because you have Uranus so prominent in your chart, and you have the Pisces. You're meant to just incorporate everything. It's like Neptune. You want to get every piece of information sort of blended together. Either way, at the end of the day, right? If the astrology is correct, at the end of the day, you're going to come to the same conclusion. And I think that's the point, So don't choose because it feels safer. Go big and just do it all because you'll wind up
Absolutely.
having, thank you, Kirah, you'll wind up having more answers that way, and you'll start to be able to feel, what makes sense and what doesn't. But truly use your water placements to your advantage in that way. Seriously. Anyway, that's all I had to say.
I totally agree. Um, yeah, I this is an exciting time for you, especially with Saturn, your Saturn return over, and now it's in your fifth house, and you can kind of like breathe a little bit. Saturn off of your stellium. I mean, of course, it's coming for your Sun and Mercury, but not this year. So this is probably a good time to sort of start getting creative with how you're incorporating both. But we both say go for both.
Period.
Um, Awesome. I really wish we could do one more, but we'll have to do another one sometime soon.
Yeah, this was fun.
Because I love to have you back. This was so fun. Thank you so much, Amber. And
You're
thank you for
welcome.
everyone that submitted questions. You can continue to submit. Go to Kirah.world, ORLD/ask, ASK. And there'll be a form that you can fill out to submit your questions. We also really want some hashtag astrologer good stories. So if you have any fun or not so fun stories about astrology transits and how they hit you and how they just like hit really hard and the astrology was just kind of mind blowing of it all, love to hear those and share those. Um, Thank you so much for joining, Amber.
You're welcome. Have fun.
Do, do you want to let people know how they can find you and what kind of services you have?
Yes. So you can hit me up. You can hit me up. You can find me on Instagram at Amber J Lights the Way. That's Amber JAY Lights the Way WAY. I offer tarot services. You have to slide in my DMs. Astrology services is only by word of mouth right now. But if you know someone who knows me, hit me up. Hit me up. But yeah, and then of course, I also kind of cool. You can follow me personally. It's Amber CJ, Amber CJAY. I have a personal Instagram too if you want to, just watch me look pretty.
Yeah. Do you want to tell people what you do outside of astrology?
Yes, I'm a television writer.
Cool.
That's like that's the if you look at my birth chart, that's like my job, like writing and basically telling stories, figuring things out, getting to like the details of things in a creative way. So that brought me to being a writer. But also, if you look at my birth chart, you can see like my higher callings, spiritualist, astrologer,
Yeah.
tarot reader, human design practitioner, adding that little nugget onto there now. But yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Well, be sure to follow Amber, hit her up for those tarot readings. Again, one of the best tarot readings I've ever had. I had from Amber earlier this year. So definitely do that. And stay tuned for our next episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks, Amber.
No problem. See y'all later.
Bye, friends.